let you introduce yourself, so stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ante. So I'm Maria Melediou. I'm a professor in the Education Department of European University Cyprus. It's a private university in Cyprus, and my background is in mathematics education, STEM education, and on the technological applications of the educational applications of technology in these fields. And more recently, I'm also working with STEAM education. And these two projects that I'll present here have to do with efforts to introduce augmented reality into schools. The first one is not in my area of expertise because it's in reading, but I was intrigued to participate and to coordinate this program because reading, the ability to read and to comprehend text is relevant for all subjects, especially for my field, mathematics education. Lack of comprehension is a big issue when students try to solve mathematics problems. Many times the difficulties they face are due to difficulties in comprehending what the question is asking. So this is the reason you will see the first project I'll present. It will be about augmented reading. The second one is gonna be more close to my area, since it's about the use of augmented reality in STEM education. Okay, so some background about augmented reality and its educational applications. So in recent years, augmented reality has gained lots of interest among educational researchers and practitioners, especially after you know, the big fuss with Pokemon, and also the extended use of smartphones, mobile devices. So educators have been exploring the new possibilities that this technology can offer for immersive learning. Despite augmented reality being present for many years, it's in recent years, of course, that research has started. So there is still little research available regarding the educational applications of augmented reality. But the existing research indicates that the interconnection of the virtual and the real world that augmented reality offers, which differentiates it from virtual reality, can make the learning process more relevant, more enjoyable. And there is some research that also shows that it can improve students' learning. It can promote more authentic and situated learning, since learners can manipulate virtual objects while still being in the real world. So research has shown that augmented reality can help make abstract concepts, for example, understanding, you know, what outer space looks like. It's very difficult for learners to understand just by looking at the pictures. So augmented reality mobile apps can help them to get a view of outer space, for example, or of an explosion. Also, augmented reality has been shown to promote the accessibility, inclusiveness. It can differentiation of instruction. Also, it can help students build transversal competences, what we call 21st century skills, like critical thinking, problem solving. Some augmented reality apps require users to do some programming, so it can build programming skills. Some apps enable collaborative use by learners. And if they use properly, they can also lead to more creative and innovative learning. And so we go to our first attempt to introduce augmented reality in real classrooms. This was a project that was funded, Living Book was a project that was funded in 2016. It was a 3-year project. I should note that when we started the project, most of us knew nothing basically about augmented reality. We had some people who had a technical background, but the ones with an educational background, the professors who came from educational departments and also teachers in schools, we had no other practical experience with augmented reality other than Pokemon, if we had tried Pokemon. Some of us had not even tried that. So it was a totally new experience for us, the introduction of augmented reality into instruction. It was a big project. We had 9 partners from 6 different countries, you see here: Cyprus, Estonia, Italy, Portugal, Romania, and the UK. We had 4 schools from 4 different countries participating. We had schools in Cyprus, in Portugal, in Estonia, and Romania. We're the coordinators, but we also had another university that was in charge of the evaluation of the project, a university in Portugal. We also have a technology company, Read, and we had an association in Italy. This association is very well known in Italy for the promotion of reading. And we had our dissemination partner was the municipality of Vicenza, also in Italy. Okay, what was the rationale for this project? It was an attempt to address a very key challenge, which is the poor performance of European children in reading, reading comprehension. As this is shown by different international assessments like PISA, for example, PISA showed in 2012 that close to 18% of European children basically could be considered to be illiterate, basically, or to have very low reading skills. And a lot of funding was put into improving children's performance, but actually, as you see here, statistics did not improve. And in 2018, the situation was still similar. So we're trying through the exploitation of augmented reality to help reverse this situation. But of course, in order for introducing augmented reality into European classrooms, our focus was on teachers, since we acknowledge how important the role of teachers is in any educational reform effort. So here are the project objectives. to address the underachievement of students aged between 9 and 15, so upper primary and lower primary school, low secondary school, in reading skills, and to increase their motivation by exploiting augmented reality, but also other emerging technologies. We developed an approach that we called augmented reading. It's an approach that combines offline activities with online experiences of virtual augmentation of a book using augmented reality, but as I said, also other technologies. Also, we aimed at creating a European community of augmented readers and of augmented teachers. So we put a lot of emphasis on social dynamics. And also another objective was to build resources for teachers to use. Lesson plans, teaching materials, and also we developed 2 professional development programs. In addition to developing students' motivation towards reading and developing their reading skills, we also aimed at boosting transversal competencies. As I noted earlier, research shows that augmented reality can help build transversal competencies like collaborative skills, digital skills, critical thinking, and so forth. Our priority in this project was on pupils from migrant or disadvantaged backgrounds, since research shows that they have low achievement and low interest in reading at higher rates compared to the rest of the students. And our focus on the project was on teachers, on how to empower them to adopt innovative practices, and specifically the augmented reading approach that we developed in order to deal with diversified groups of learners. The project also involved parents because we realized how important the role of parents is. And the focus again was on parents from disadvantaged or migrant backgrounds. And we developed, in addition to a teacher professional development program, we also developed a program, training program targeting parent educators. How these parent educators could train parents in home pro-reading activities. Here are the main project outputs. Okay. The Living Book guidelines. It provided the methodological guidelines of implementing the Living Book approach. The Living Book library, all these are of course now available to anyone interested. The Living Book library, it's a multilingual platform that offers tools that teachers can use to augment, and teachers but also students can use to augment the reading experience with technological tools. And there are some examples of such augmented material. For example, there are books, there are lesson plans that are augmented with augmented reality objects. And also, in addition to toolkits for teachers and students to use, in the platform, teachers and students can also use tools for socialization. So there are, for example, discussion forums, you can have friends, and so forth. In order to promote this transnational community of augmented teachers and augmented readers, so here's our living library. Anybody can register here. Okay, this living library, but also the platforms of the professional development course for augmented teachers and for augmented parent trainers. They have lesson plans, the one for parents. For parent trainers, it has a pack of activities that parents can do at home with their children. These are also available on the Living Library. So the main outputs of the project are these two courses that you see here. The professional development course, which targets upper elementary and lower secondary school teachers and their students. And in parallel, teachers taking this course also take the course for augmented parent trainers. So in our project, we assumed that the parent trainers were the teachers. This is not always the case. In some countries, there are people whose occupation is on parent education. So these people can also use the material, the resources of the augmented parent trainer course. But in our project, for logistical reasons, so our parent trainers were the teachers who were also taking the professional development course targeting teachers. Both of these courses adopted a blended learning approach, face-to-face seminars, where we had hands-on activities, practice, but also introduction to some underlying theory. You see here. Okay, can you hear me? Because I can hear.
Yes,
Can you?
Maria,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay.
I can have my camera on if it helps you.
Then it's okay.
I think we are the only ones in the room, but I'm enjoying the presentation.
Really?
So please go ahead.
Okay. So we, in addition to face-to-face training, we also had ICT mediated instruction using the Living Library and course platforms that we developed for these two courses. And our professional development program also includes guided field practice, where teachers customize, expand upon the lesson plans, the scenarios introduced during the training, and apply them in their classrooms. So here's the theoretical framework on which our design of the programs was based. Okay. I'll explain here. So contemporary literacy theories that I was not, as I said, the expert in the group. We had colleagues who were experts in literacy, and so they guided us in terms of what theories related to literacy to adopt. And they guided us in developing the augmented reading approach, which I already introduced. In general, here it shows how we approach literacy. So for us, literacy was not something that the individual develops, you know, free from social, cultural context, but it depends on their social, on their cultural background, on the ideological practice of parents, educators. Literacy, because it can open, doors to education and education opportunities and so forth. So it can promote social justice, but also it's a way of constructing inequalities. As I mentioned earlier, research shows that a much higher percentage of students from low socioeconomic background have difficulties in reading. And so we introduced technology in order to help all students, but particularly these students that are not motivated or have low skills in reading. We acknowledge the fact that text is no longer the only mode of making meaning. So multiliteracy, as you see here, they highlight both linguistic diversity and multimodal forms of linguistic expression and representation. You see here spatial, gestural, visual, auditory, and so forth. Okay, and so we exploited augmented reality to enliven the traditional books. Okay, so we tried, by integrating 2D illustrations. We tried to motivate students towards reading, to transform static stories into dynamic and engaging reading experiences. As I said earlier, we aimed also at the development of communities of teaching practitioners and learners. So we put a lot of emphasis on sociocultural theories and communities of practice. Also, our aim in using augmented reality and other emerging technologies was to promote students' creativity, innovation. So as you see here, we approached AR technologies as tools for the construction of knowledge of skills through making, designing. So we're guided by pedagogical frameworks, ideas like the revised Bloom's taxonomy that all people in education know, where the classical Bloom's taxonomy was changed in the beginning of the 21st century in order to reflect the affordances of technology. Technology allows us not just to be consumers of technological tools, but also creators. And as you see here, on the top of higher order thinking skills, we have creativity, creating. Okay, so we put a lot of emphasis in the program on students using augmented reality to create their own books, to create their own stories, and through that to develop their reading skills, but also critical thinking skills, creativity, and so forth. So we saw technology not just as a tool for substituting or augmenting traditional teaching, but as a tool for modifying or even redefining instruction. We're also guided by principles of adult education because our main target group were teachers who are adults. As I mentioned, in our project, we had as formal partners 4 schools. They were partners on an equal basis as universities. They took an active part in the design of the professional development program, and also when we offered the professional development program, a big part of it was offered by teachers that had been trained through the program, became in turn teacher trainers. because we consider teachers' experiences as a valuable source of knowledge and learning. And indeed, you will see in a while that this proved a particularly important and useful aspect of the program. Also, we put a lot of emphasis on how adults learn better. Research shows that adult learning is more effective when it occurs in the workplace, in adults' actual lived-in situations. So we adopted what is called the revised technological pedagogical content knowledge framework. This is based on the well-known TPACK framework, which emphasizes how important it is for teachers to develop integrated understanding of three forms of knowledge: technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. The revised TPACK adopts this idea, but also extends it by putting emphasis on the cultural factors that shape teachers' professional growth. So it extends the TPACK through the introduction of the idea of local communities of practice and workplace learning. So in our program, and particularly in the partner schools, because we had teachers also from individual teachers that were not part of the partner schools that participated in the professional development program. But at least in the partner schools, we adopted a systemic approach, which included all the important stakeholders: students, teachers, including the school management teams, parents. So we involved, throughout the project, we involved all stakeholder groups. We developed communities of practice within the schools. So in order to build these communities of teaching practitioners, we involved teachers, teachers themselves were involved in professional development activities such as lesson design, action research, field experience. They were doing co-teaching. They were observing their colleagues doing teaching. They were watching together videotaped teaching episodes in order to support TPACK development in ways that are transferable to teaching practice. Also involved parents through informative brochures, parent information evenings, family literacy and technology nights. So we help teachers understand how they could use augmented reality apps that children could use in their tablets to enhance their children's reading experiences. Okay. So the course, as you see here, was pilot tested in all 4 countries. In Cyprus, we actually offered 3 rounds of this course because there was a very high interest among the teaching community. And actually, the last one was offered, the last round was offered in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. Okay, and many of the teachers that participated did follow-up classroom experimentations. And also in the partner schools, as I said, there were also activities targeting parents. Okay, so this is the methodology with which we evaluated the project. We collected lots of data, but unfortunately, we are still at the initial stages of its analysis. Our aim is to see the real impact of teachers' TPACK development on students' motivation and learning. But we are still, for example, we collected teachers in partner schools, they built portfolios with different activities they did, student work samples and so forth. And we have lots of others forms of data. But as I said, the analysis of the qualitative data is still ongoing. We just analyze basically mainly quantitative forms of data like surveys, questionnaires, and so forth. But what the initial analysis shows is that the teachers like the program a lot. They particularly like this focus on the promotion of reading, and they found the program very innovative. Especially, they like the fact that they got familiarized with augmented reality and other emerging technologies and how they could use them in their classroom. Also, our program, we had experts in assistive technology, so we put a lot of focus on accessibility, differentiation of instruction. And because we had schools involved in the professional development, lots of practical examples, tips from teachers in the partnership on how to integrate the living book approach in a real classroom setting. So as you see, the teachers particularly like the fact that they got familiarized with apps like HP Reveal, Zabar, AR Tutor, Quiver, and so forth. Also, many expressed an appreciation for the fact that a big part of the seminars was led by real classroom teachers and not only academics. Okay, they also like the collaboration opportunities with teachers from other schools or even from other countries. Most of the teachers who tried out in their classrooms the idea of augmented reading, they reported very positive experiences. There were some teachers that did not had the opportunity to try them out, but they all intended to do so in the near future. The strongest incentive for them was to build students' motivation to get them engaged in reading, but they also believed that this was not just for motivation purposes, that it could have great benefits regarding students' learning, in promoting their reading skills, habits, help them better comprehend concepts and ideas, and so forth, build transversal skills. Okay, when asked what they considered the profile of learners that would benefit the most from the augmented reading approach, most teachers said that it would benefit, or that it benefited those who tried out, all learners. But some teachers argued that it was particularly beneficial for students that face learning difficulties that are not motivated towards reading. And as you see here in a student post survey, whereas 2/3 of the children noted that they liked the augmented reading approach, these were children whose teachers had done teaching experimentations. You see here that this percentage was higher for children who had indicated spending no time at all or very little time in reading books. And children who found books boring, they particularly liked the augmented reading approach. Some negative aspects of a living book: too time consuming. This was pointed out by most of the teachers actually. huge workload, too much reading of theoretical material, but also lots of time needed to prepare augmented reality enhanced lesson plans. Also, several teachers said that they needed more time to acquainted with the tools. Some teachers, not from the partner schools, but from other schools, noted that their school does not have the necessary infrastructure or does not have the support from school management. Okay, when asked whether they would recommend this to their colleagues, all responded positively, but they said that people who would want to try it out need to know that they have to invest lots of time and effort. So some limitations pointed out by teachers that are challenges when trying to introduce in their classrooms. Limitations in the availability of technology, technical issues, lack of technical and pedagogical support, lack of lesson plans and other educational material, an oversized curriculum, and also shortage of freely available, reliable augmented reality tools, because they face lots of technical issues with some of the tools they tried out. Okay. And now I'll go fast, just 5 minutes for LSTEM, just to point out the similarities and the differences compared to Living Book. So here again, we had 9 partners from 5 different countries, schools, universities. The rationale was to motivate students towards STEM studies and careers, since we all know that there is declining interest in key STEM topics and careers for EU students, but also students internationally. So here we try to exploit augmented reality in order through augmented reality, mixed reality, but it was basically augmented reality supported laboratories to make a STEM curricular more innovative, attractive and competitive. So again, we put emphasis on teacher training. Okay, so we aimed at developing students' problem-solving skills, motivations towards STEM subjects through teachers' professional development in how to adopt the Enlivened Laboratories approach. Here are the main project outputs. Okay, the main output of the project is the blended teachers training curriculum. So a professional development targeting teachers that also includes, the other outputs, for example, how to account for diversity and accessibility, library and toolkits, lesson plans, learning objects developed by participating teachers. Okay, so you see here the theoretical framework is similar to Living Book, but here it also it's also based on contemporary approaches to STEM teaching and learning, like problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, scaffolding in STEM education. And there is research to show that augmented reality can help promote this type of learning. Okay, sorry I go fast. You can have access to this presentation, whoever is interested, Andre, if you're interested.
Thank you, Mariam. I think we only have 5 minutes. And
yes, I'll finish. Just in 5 minutes, I'll finish. So, and then you'll ask me some questions. You're the only one in the room still.
I think I am the only one, but I do have a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Okay, I'll finish in 5 minutes. Okay, here we had again 2 rounds of pilot testing. You see many teachers have tried it out in 4 countries. The first round was in the previous, the 2018-19 school year. The second round was affected by COVID. It was during 2019-20. Again, we collected multiple forms of data. The analysis of data is still at the very initial stages. The project just finished now. We are now submitting the final report. The initial findings are very similar to what we observed in Living Book, but here we also found some important differences based on demographic characteristics. For example, teachers from Estonia and Finland, they were much more experienced. They had already tried, for example, tools like many of them, like HP Reveal and Quiver and these easy to use AR tools. So many, several of them were eager to try more advanced tools like Unity. So we also introduced Unity in some of these countries. But in Cyprus and actually in Greece, we also introduced Unity. But that was in a private school. In public schools, in Cyprus especially, teachers, we tried to introduce it, but it was way too demanding for teachers. Okay, here it's very short summary of what we noticed during the first round of offering the course in Cyprus and Greece. We saw the fact that STEM-related courses are not part of the curriculum. That affected a lot in a negative way, you know, the teachers' intent to adopt this STEM approach. Also, mobile devices are not allowed in schools, so teachers have to get special permission. But still we saw that teachers in the partner schools, they did some really good efforts and they managed to collaborate and to do some really nice experiments with their students, teaching interventions with their students. But we saw here differences. For example, technical issues were a big problem in for some teachers and some schools that had low internet access, for example, very slow internet or no internet access. Also, we had issues with some of the augmented reality tools. The school administration, again, the role was very important. So if the school administration was supportive, teachers were more likely to try out this innovative approach. Teachers who were more confident with technology and its educational applications were more likely also to try it out and to have positive experience. And also teachers' motivation in general is a very important factor. So our findings showed for both projects that even though augmented reality, it does present some exciting opportunities for augmenting students' engagement and learning in all disciplines, basically. There are several challenges, and the challenges we encountered have also been pointed out in previous studies. So I think I already mentioned these constraints. And I think the most important factor is, of course, teacher professional development, need for the provision of high quality professional development for teachers. and even for parents, as we saw in Living Book. But also technical aspects are important. So it's important to equip classrooms with appropriate AR tools, also to provide them with technical pedagogical support. And also we need to reconstruct school curricula, methods of assessment, so that they can more closely align with the features of augmented reality and more generally with the digital transformation that we aim at. And that's it. I finished then, Andre.
Thank you very much, Maria. You can see me, right? Yes, I